Obviously, monitoring these college protests around the country. The big news this morning, the UCLA protest camp, the encampment, was broken down and broken up by law enforcement. So that one has subsided. We've seen that, obviously, in recent days. KU popped up with its own protest and encampment that began, it seems like, yesterday. So Sarah Greene is a KU student. She joins us on KCMO 95.7 FM and the KCMO Talk Radio app. Sarah, good morning. Thank you for being here. So take us through kind of step by step what's been going on there on the KU campus on this front the last couple of days.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, so yesterday morning is when it all kind of started. So a bunch of tents and people just popped up right in front of Frazier Hall. There's sidewalk chalk over all down Jayhawk Boulevard, just pointing to it with a bunch of arrows. And I visited for probably about 5 hours yesterday. I just walked by 1,000 times and wanted to see what all was going on. But it started pretty small in the morning, and then throughout the day it grew, and then there's a lot of rules. So they all have to wear masks. They all are covering their eyebrows. They're deactivating their Face ID. They got probably to about 200 people at one point in the day, and then slowly towards the night, they started putting their tents up again. And the tents aren't allowed, so the university said you need to put the tents up or the police are going to come in. And so probably around 8 o'clock, the tents went down, and they all said, we're still going to stay. But I think about 10:30 p.m., they all left, and I went back this morning, and no one's there yet today. But they said they stayed the night and are planning on staying till the end of finals, which is till next Friday. So we'll see. But the university is doing a good job about letting them exercise the right to free speech, but still monitoring the tent situation because tents is against campus policy.
Okay, so they did not let them. Did they have campus police out there last night basically saying that you're not going to start popping up tents around here?
Yes, the university went up and just said you have until sundown, and then the police are going to act. And so then a bunch of police showed up right on the other side of Frazier Hall, and they were just waiting. But then right before they were going to do anything, they all took their tents down. But they were all preparing to resist. They all were planning on locking arms and everything, but then they ended up just taking the tents down.
Ah, okay. So when push came to shove, they backed down, it seems like.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Sarah Greene, KU student, is joining us here on KCMO Talk Radio. So you walked by this, obviously, as you noted, a ton yesterday. What was the sentiment? I mean, were you there kind of as an innocent bystander walking by? Were you there? I saw there were a handful of folks supporting Israel on the other side of this encampment. Where were you at, and what was the treatment like from some of these individuals?
Yeah, I just walked by as just a student wanting to learn what it is. I wasn't choosing a side or anything. They're pretty aggressive the way they were chanting and everything, but no comment. I mean, I took pictures and videos, and it was all fine. No one really spoke to me. And then there was a counter protest with a lot of the more Jewish students on campus, and they were super friendly. Made a few friends watching, so it was good.
What's been the general sentiment on campus? Did you see this kind of bubbling up to yesterday's encampment beginning, or was this really just started by a couple of students on a whim and then grew from there? How did this thing build up over the last few days there at KU?
It seemed like it was started by very few people, and because no one really knew about it and it just popped up out of nowhere. I mean, I heard about it the night before at probably 10 p.m. I mean, I wasn't expecting it, and I'm pretty wanting to know what's going on campus. So I think it was pretty much on the down low, and then it just popped up. And, I mean, they were welcoming anyone who wanted to join them. There was a bunch of signs. I mean, they had a ton of food and water, and, I mean, they had it ready for a lot of people.
Do you know where the funding for this came from? Did that ever come up? Did you hear anything about that? Where the funding for the water bottles and whatever else they had there? Who was supporting that? Who was paying for any of that?
Yeah, I was very interested in that as well. They have posters posted all around campus with a QR code to a Venmo, but I doubt that that's where really any money comes in. But I know that's one way. But I mean, it's a part of the national thing where there's encampments at all the campuses. It's some big organization. So I'm guessing it's funded through them.
So you think it's funded, your perception then is that it's being funded nationally just based on how much stuff was out there yesterday?
Yeah, and there was one thing, I mean, right before the police were potentially coming, they were on the megaphone, like, giving these people, like, strict directions, and they all had a phone number written on their arm, like, with a Sharpie, in case they got arrested, like, that's the phone number to call. So I'm guessing that that's part of the organization where I'm sure the money's coming from as well.
What was the phone number? What's your area code out there? 785? Was it a 785 area code, or was it like an area code that was unrecognizable?
I couldn't see it. I don't know.
But they all had a phone number on their arms.
Yes. I think right when they came in, they gave you a mask and they wrote the phone number. I mean, they said, I'm only writing this on you if you're okay with being arrested. So, the people consented and, like, were aware that that's potential.
So they gave them a mask if they entered the encampment, like one of those COVID masks or like a ski mask, or what kind of mask were they giving out?
It was a COVID mask, and if someone didn't wear it, they told them to leave. I know a few people got kicked out because they refused to wear the mask, and because they were encouraging people to cover below the eyes and above the eyebrows, just so they couldn't be identified.
Why would they not want to be identified if they were of the belief and are of the belief that they're on the right side of history with this? Did anybody express any of that to you?
No, that was the same question I had.
Wow. So they were handing out the masks, and they were basically saying, cover yourself everywhere but your eyes.
Correct.
Now, we had a lot of Kansas City media there, TV stations and whatnot. This is Sarah Greene. She's a KU student joining us on KCMO 95.7 FM, and we're streaming, of course, on KCMOTalkRadio.com. Local media was present there yesterday from Kansas City. Did you see any of them? Did you interact with any of them? What were they doing while this was all unfolding?
Yeah, I did not interact, but there was, a ton of media there. They told all the protesters no one should answer questions except the same two people. The same two people took, I'm pretty sure, every single interview on behalf of that protest. And, they were interviewing just random students. Anyone's doing anything, they were getting interviews. They were all over it.
Wow. Could you tell, were there non-students who were actively involved in any of this?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
A lot?
Yeah, there were many, many adults. People brought children in the protest because it was kind of like a squared off area with like a piece of string. There were children, there were dogs, there were adults.
Did it seem like there were adults? So you mentioned some kids, I guess families bringing their kids to something like this, but like single adults who just had nothing to do with KU who were also showing up? Were they at all maybe some of the leaders involved in all this? Like, did it seem like those involved in leadership were non-students?
It seemed that way. It's kind of hard to tell because they have the masks on.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And there's also non-traditional students. So I'm not entirely sure who was who, but there were a lot of college kids. There were. The majority was certainly college students, but there were also definitely some adults that don't seem like they went to KU there.
Okay. Now, has the university sent anything out, like any mass emails or texts about this in the last 12 hours or so?
No.
Nothing.
Mm-mm.
Wow. Okay, so now we just kind of wait and see. I don't know. Did it rain out there in Lawrence this morning? We got hit this morning with some rain, so I'm curious if the rain is going to scare some of them off.
I'm guessing it did. There was no one there yet. I don't know what time they were planning on starting this morning. The school newspaper said that 100 people are planning on spending the night, but no one's there right now, so that definitely didn't happen.
No one is there right now. Okay. All right.
No.
So they had to go charge the MacBook Pros and the iPhones and the whole thing, and then we'll see what happens today. Okay. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being brave enough to join us here on KCMO. We appreciate the insight, the perspective, and we'd love to keep in touch here and just see what's going on the ground there at KU.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
You bet. That is well done there by Sarah Greene, KU student here on KCMO Talk Radio.